Europe's FCAS project. Will France, Germany, and Spain overtake the F-35? Germany, France, and Spain's defense ministers will meet in October to discuss options for reviving the FCAS joint fighter jet program, German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius said on Thursday. Acknowledging that the project had kept facing setbacks, Pistorius said the ministers would identify stumbling blocks and solutions before presenting leaders with options for a final decision later in the year. We will all pull together, and national interests will need to be put aside by one or the other or all of us. It is clear we are damned to succeed. We need this project, Pistorius told reporters on the sidelines of a meeting with his Spanish counterpart, Margarita Robles, in Berlin. Berlin blames French industry for blocking the next phase in the development of the FCAS program, estimated to cost more than €100 billion, $117 billion, by demanding sole leadership of the project, Reuters reported on Tuesday. France's Dassault Aviation, which is responsible for the core crewed fighter part of the project, declined to comment. A Lockheed Martin F-35 fighter jet performs during the International Aerospace Exhibition ILA on the opening day at Schoenfeld Airport in Berlin, Germany, June 5, 2024, credit, Reuters/Axel Schmidt. A Lockheed Martin F-35 fighter jet performs during the International Aerospace Exhibition ILA on the opening day at Schoenfeld Airport in Berlin, Germany, June 5, 2024, credit, Reuters/Axel Schmidt. Airbus and Indra are also involved in the scheme to start replacing French Rafale and German and Spanish Eurofighters with a sixth-generation fighter jet from 2040. But Berlin and Paris are at odds over the composition of the consortium. France has told Germany it wants a work share of some 80% in FCAS, a defense industry source told Reuters in July. The differences could jeopardize the launch of the second phase, namely developing airworthy demonstrators, which had originally been scheduled for the end of this year, according to defense sources. Pistorius said a decision on whether or not to launch the second phase of the project would be taken in the fourth quarter. Asked about what options are available to get the project back on track by the end of the year, he said, "The answer is rather simple. Contracts are struck to be adhered to. If there is a wish for changes, then these are only possible after fresh negotiations between the partners. One thing is clear, this process must not carry on for ages. We need to gain speed now because the project does not allow for any further delays." Advertisement. Robles said Spain was committed to the FCAS project. "This is an essential and fundamental project that we must invigorate, and we must invigorate it as much as possible," she said. "Spain's commitment is total and this program must continue." Spain earlier this month said it was no longer considering the option of buying US-made F-35 fighter jets and would choose between Eurofighter and FCAS as it refocuses its defense spending on buying European-made equipment. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said on Wednesday he had agreed with French President Emmanuel Macron to make a decision on the future of FCAS by the end of the year. FCAS is meant as a holistic transformation of air warfare emphasizing cooperation among platforms, munitions, and sensors. At its core lies the system, referred to in its name, one that combines piloted aircraft, sensors, remote carriers, drones, and munitions, all of which share information, data, and tasks. The primary pillar of FCAS, at issue in the present controversy, is the New Generation Fighter, NGF. The development of this combat aircraft is under the lead of Dassault Aviation, the French aerospace company that currently produces the Rafale, a twin-engine jet fighter not only used by French forces but also widely sold internationally. Dassault sees the NGF as the heart of the FCAS around which other pillars are arranged. Yet, after Spain joined FCAS in 2019, Airbus Spain was designated as its national contractor for NGF, Airbus also being the German national contractor here, putting Dassault, in its view, in the uncomfortable position of leading the pillar while being a minority partner that could be outvoted by its two Airbus counterparts. The principal German contractor of FCAS, Airbus Germany, leads work on its second pillar, the Combat Cloud, a decentralized, distributed and delegated information sharing, command and control system meant to integrate sensors, responsibilities, and weapons. It is intended as platform agnostic, combining manned and unmanned systems, satellite, aerial surveillance, and potentially ground and sea-based platforms, whether developed through FCAS or otherwise. Furthermore, the combat cloud will enable interoperability with legacy platforms such as the Eurodrone, A400M airlifter, and eventually drone mothership, Rafale F5 under development, and Eurofighter tranches 4 and 5 on order. A third pillar is comprised of remote carriers, heavy, reusable, or light, single-use, unmanned vehicles that operate in conjunction with manned platforms. While Airbus is designated as lead contractor, the French division of MBDA is tasked with the light carrier. Meanwhile, Dassault is heavily promoting successors to Neuron, a European developmental drone project it has led since 2005. For Dassault, Neuron is both a platform to develop wingman heavy carriers for the Rafale F5 and a model of successful European collaboration under its stewardship. In 2022, when FCAS progressed toward its phase of technological development, known as Phase 1B, it already took political pressure to compel the two lead companies, Dassault and Airbus, to agree on a work share. Headwinds against cooperation in the context of FCAS now seem even stronger. In April 2025, Dassault CEO Trappier told the Defense Commission of the French Assembly point-blank that while his company was willing to collaborate, if that was the political command, it also largely possessed the competences to produce the new generation fighter, NGF, which France sees as the primary pillar of FS, as a sovereign, French-only system. Michael Schulhorn, CEO of Airbus Defence and Space, retorted that, unlike Dassault, Airbus, the principal German contractor of FCAS, stood for a more European perspective. Thomas Pretzel, chairman of the Central Works Council at Airbus's Mosching factory in Bavaria, was uncompromising, arguing that in Europe, there are more attractive and suitable partners than Dassault. Part of the disagreement can be explained by diverging perspectives on the program itself. For Dassault, a legacy aircraft manufacturer, the NGF is FCAS's heart. In its view, the other pillars, including remote carriers and the combat cloud, serve to enhance the fighter on which the whole project rests, and which is central to France's nuclear deterrence mission. Consequently, when addressing the Defense Commission in April, Trappier seamlessly switched between referring to the NGF and FCAS, as he claimed Dassault could readily produce a sovereign FCAS. For Airbus, however, as its presentation video makes clear, FCAS represents the future of battle management and does not necessarily have a fighter plane as its core. When speaking of the FCAS, Airbus highlights the role of the components for which it is responsible, including crewed-uncrewed teaming and cloud communications, as well as the integration of other Airbus systems.